What's up everybody, it's DarkSpyro here, and today we have another Buster Blader deck profile for you. If you like this video, then please let me know down in the comment section below if you want to see a different version next month, and don't forget to like and share this video if you really liked it. With all of that out of the way, let's just dive on into the Buster Blader core. Let's start this off with the Buster Blader core, and you can't play Buster Blader without the main man himself, Buster Blader. And we have triple copies of him. Of course, this is our typical package. The 3-in-1. And I've been seeing a lot of people just play 2 of the retrain lately. And you can do that if you really want to, but you're going to be missing out on a big portion of this combo. If you really want to take advantage of Destruction Sword Fusion, you should probably run the main guy himself. Next up is our key searcher for the deck. We got Buster Whelp of the Destruction Swordsman. For those of you that don't know, he actually has 3 built-in effects. The first one is not once per turn, and that is his normal summon effect. When this card is normal summon, you can add 1 Destruction Sword card from your deck to your hand, except another copy of Buster Whelp. You can only use the next 2 effects hard once per turn and only one or the other that turn. The first one is you can tribute this card, special summon 1 Buster Blader from your hand or graveyard. It's not too bad. The other one is, if this card is in your graveyard and you control a Buster Blader, you can discard 1 Destruction Sword card, special summon this card. As good as the hard once per turn effects are, he is usually just played for the normal summon effect, as you can add Prologue of the Destruction Swordsman, or as I like to call it, the win button. And we'll get into that right after we finish the monsters. Our last 2 Destruction Sword cards here are 1 copy of Dragon Buster Destruction Sword and 1 copy of Wizard Buster Destruction Sword. Both of these monsters are floodgates that once they are equipped to a monster, or in our case Buster Blader as they should be, Dragon Buster's main utility is to lock your opponent out of their extra deck, which is a very powerful effect. His additional effect is while he's equipped to a monster, you can special summon him. So he's actually very good for the combos. Wizard Buster, same thing. When he's equipped to a monster, monsters in your opponent's graveyard cannot activate their effects. And in the current format, I think that's powerful enough that you can main deck Wizard, especially because his other effect is you can send this equipped card to the graveyard, target 1 Destruction Sword monster in your graveyard, except Wizard Buster, add it to your hand. So he's actually really good for getting Protector Whelp back into your extra deck, and then you can link summon him again the next turn, and just keep setting up your graveyard, special summoning Buster Blader. They're both pretty good to equip with Buster Dragon on your opponent's turn, so if you know that they're not playing extra deck heavy deck, you can equip the Wizard Buster, lock out their graveyard instead. With the monsters out of the way, we got the win button next, and this is Prologue of the Destruction Swordsman. You've probably heard me over and over call this card the win button, and that's because it still is. If you set this card, you have a dragon engrave, you win! Especially when you can go Dragoon Turbo at the same time, as this is the core deck feature. Like I mentioned previously with Buster Whelp of the Destruction Swordsman, this is the core card that you're going to be searching with it. Or if you just open it, you want to find a way to get a dragon into the graveyard, this card can potentially win you the game by itself. The effect is as follows: send 1 Destruction Sword card and 1 Buster Blader monster from your deck to the graveyard. So that's cost. Except another copy of Prologue of the Destruction Swordsman, which you don't need to anyways, so don't worry about that. Special summon 1 Buster Dragon from your extra deck or graveyard, but destroy it during the end phase of the next turn. So if you use this on your opponent's turn, it'll be destroyed at the end phase of your turn. Its other effect is you can banish this card from your graveyard. This turn, Destruction Sword cards you control cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. So that's pretty good for the little Destruction Swords and the actual back row cards, but other than that, it doesn't really do too much. For the cost, you get to send a Destruction Sword card. In tandem with this, if you send the next card here, Destruction Sword Memories, you get to perform one of the strongest combos that this deck has to offer. When this is sent as cost, you can chain it to Prologue. And the effect of this card, when it's in the graveyard, you can banish this card from the graveyard, fusion summon 1 Buster Blader the Dragon Destroyer Swordsman from your extra deck by banishing fusion materials listed on it from your graveyard. So remember, Prologue also sends a Buster Blader monster alongside a Destruction Sword card. So you send Memories and Buster Blader, as long as there's a dragon there previously, then you get to go into the ultimate 2-card combo of Buster Blader the Dragon Destroyer Swordsman and Buster Dragon. And we actually have one final card here for the Destruction Sword archetype. We have Destruction Swordsman Fusion. So I've been playing Destruction Sword Flash on and off, and it's good, but sometimes you don't want to remove your opponent's monsters so easily. So you can put that into the side deck, but I'm not running it right now at all. Destruction Swordsman Fusion is a super polymerization that you can search off of Buster Whelp, and when it's in the graveyard, you can recur it back to your hand just by discarding any card from your hand to the grave. Unfortunately, this super poly only works for monsters that list Buster Blader in its text for the fusion summon, but at least that's not just the Buster Blader Dragon Destroyer Swordsman fusion. You can also use this for the fusion summon of Dark Paladin, since that card also lists Buster Blader as one of the fusion materials. Like I mentioned, when this card's in the grave, you can discard any card to bring it back, so it's pretty good for unbricking your hand or even just setting up your graveyard. Since I said it's a super poly, you can just set it and then activate it on your opponent's turn because it's a quick play spell. So it's got a lot going for it, but it doesn't have so much overwhelming strength on your opponent that you could run multiples of these. I like running it because it's an instant win in mirror matches, and if you're playing against any dragon deck, they're just going to instantly be terrified when you flip this. And since we have Destruction Sword Memories, we do not really need this card for the fusion summons. It's just an extra bonus. That's it for the Buster Blader core. And for the Red Eyes package that enables us to have Dragoon Turbo, we have 2 copies of Red Eyes Black Dragon, and we have 2 copies of Dark Magician. Yes, I'm running 4 vanilla bricks instead of 2, but we don't really need to worry about it so much. We're playing a pretty big deck here. There's 54 cards, so we don't really see these 4 cards that often, thank goodness. And when you do, it's not the end of the world if you have to get rid of one. It kind of mind games your opponent. Whether you're playing an Allure of Darkness or Chaos Space or a Sacred Sword, it doesn't matter. It still is going to inform your opponent that you're playing it, but no longer have access to it if you pitch any of these to the grave or banish them. Not to mention that if you're playing multiple copies of Red Eyes Fusion, you're going to want multiple targets for those cards. So, and the last monster here is actually just a target for insight. We're still playing Red Eyes Wyvern in this deck. Red Eyes Wyvern puts a lot of extra pressure on your opponent if they manage to clear Dragoon, and if you just go straight to end phase on your next turn, you don't do any summons, you can just straight up bring Dragoon back for free. Now, if you do special summon Red Eyes Dark Dragoon back from the graveyard without a fusion summon, it's just going to be a big beat stick that can Omni negate once per turn. So keep that in mind if you ever try to Monster Reborn somebody's Dragoon thinking you can pop their cards. You cannot. So bear this in mind. Same thing for Red Eyes Wyvern, but it is still an incredibly powerful card just to bring it back. So 1 Wyvern is worth it. Now for the most critical card to get Red Eyes Dark Dragoon out there, we got 3 copies of Red Eyes Fusion. For the specific version of this deck, 2 of these are always going to go off. Unfortunately, one of them is always going to result in a brick. It does help you find these cards a lot faster, and if you do open with 1 or 2 in your hand, yeah, that can be bad, but it's also kind of the whole point of this deck. You hard activate Red Eyes Fusion and set Trap Trick or Prologue. I will also mention that having that 3rd copy of Red Eyes Fusion is very nice if you go into Predaplant. If you only have 2 copies of Red Eyes Fusion in your whole deck, but they're both in your hand, yeah, Predaplant is no longer going to be able to activate its effect to copy that effect, because it needs to send Red Eyes Fusion from the deck, not the hand. So it's just a little bit of security, and it helps you see it in your opening hand, and that's just the way this deck is. You kind of want to see Red Eyes Fusion in your opening hand. And just to speed it up a little bit quicker, we have 1 copy of Red Eyes Insight. You can bump this up to a 2nd copy if you really want to. Unfortunately, if you open 2 Insight, or if you draw into a 2nd Insight later, it'll be totally useless. So bear that in mind. Having 1 Insight though, not that bad. You can always just pitch your Wyvern, and then add 1 of those extra copies of Red Eyes Fusion, even if it's a brick. That way you just have that extra card to discard for Dragoon. We have 1 more card here. It's technically not a Red Eyes card, but it is Magical Eyes Fusion. This card is very self-explanatory. You can fusion summon 1 Spellcaster Fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing fusion materials listed on it from your field or graveyard. You can only activate 1 Magical Eyes Fusion per turn. This card is actually a target for Predaplant, Verte, and Anaconda as well, but if you have it in your hand, it's not the end of the world, especially if you go Red Eyes Fusion turn 1, turn 2, Magical Eyes Fusion. Alright, to start off the Dragon Link engine, I'm going to show you guys the Rocket package first, and we're playing 2 copies of Rocket Syncron. I like to make sure that I actually have a target for War Arthal with the Quick Launch. If you're in a situation where you have War Arthal, Rocket Syncron, and Quick Launch, you're gonna usually have to normal summon your Rocket Syncron for the War Arthau, defeating the purpose of Quick Launch. If you have that second Rocket Syncron, it gives you that little bit of extra chance so that you can resolve your cards and keep into your combo properly. Rocket Syncron has a nice normal summon effect. When this card is normal summon, you can target 1 level 5 or higher Dark Dragon monster in your graveyard, special summon it in defense position, negate its effects, destroy it during the end phase. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of this turn except Dark monsters. For the level 4s, we got 2 Rocket Tracer and a Rocket Recharger. Rocket Tracer, same dealio. You want to at least have a target for Quick Launch if you want to, go into extra Synchro plays or Crystron Halki Fibrax, or just blow up a card on the field, or to have the target engraved for Striker Dragon. If you use the effect of Tracer to blow something up on your side of the field, such as your field spell or World Legacy Guard Dragon or another monster, you can special summon this Rocket Recharger from deck, 4 and 4, go into an 8. So it's just a pretty standard Dragon Link combo, not gonna lie. And the last rocket monster here is Absurrouter Dragon. If you control a rocket monster, you can special summon Absurrouter Dragon from your hand. And whenever Absurrouter Dragon is just straight up sent to the graveyard, you can add any rocket from your deck to your hand. I would not play multiple Absurrouter simply because it's a hard once per turn on its effect. And if you open multiples of them, you're not going to be able to special summon multiples of them. Moving on into the final cards here for this rocket package is triple copies of Quick Launch and 1 Boot Sector Launch. Quick Launch is a very easy combo starter. Special summon 1 rocket monster from your deck, but it cannot attack, also destroy it during the end phase. This in tandem with a card such as War Arthau. Boot Sector Launch is the field spell that comes with the rocket engine here. Once you link out your Striker Dragon, you get to add Boot Sector Launch from your deck to your hand. While this card is face up on the field, all rocket monsters on the field gain 300 attack defense. Then it says you can activate one of these effects. You can either special summon up to 2 rocket monsters with different names from your hand in defense position, or it says if your opponent controls more monsters than you do, special summon rocket monsters with different names from your graveyard in defense position up to the difference. You could potentially special summon up to 3 rockets from your graveyard with that extra effect, so it's a very good card. That's it for the majority of the deck. We just have extenders and hand traps. So these guys are pretty self-explanatory. This is just Noctovision Dragon. Noctovision Dragon is just a free extra body on board, and once you link him away, you get to draw a card. It's also good protection for your face-down back row. Next up, we have Monodragon Zernitron. I've showcased this guy in the past a couple of times now. He is essentially the older cousin for Omnidragon Brotar. His effect is very similar, but instead of a monster being destroyed, it's for if a spell trap you control leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect. As long as it's not during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your graveyard if it was there when that spell trap left, or from your hand even if not. Then you can set 1 spell or trap that is banished or in your graveyard to your spell and trap zone. You can only use this effect of Monodragon Zernitron once per turn, and if it's special summoned this way, banish this card when it leaves the field. The most important thing here is that it is a level 6 dragon, so we can pitch him off of Shooting Riser Dragon to turn him into a level 1. Like I said, I'm playing a bunch of level 4s. I'm playing 1 Starly Age Safer. Normally what you do is, if you use him as a combo starter, is you normal summon him, and then you get to send itself, because it's a level 4, to add either White Dragon Wyver Burster or Black Dragon Collapse Serpent from your deck to your hand. Obviously, these cards here are all self-explanatory. They're very standard in Dragon Link decks, but normally, like I said, you'll see multiple copies of Starly Age Safer. Safer is here just for an emergency combo starter, like I said, or just an extender. That's it for all the extender monsters, though. Let's go into the spells next. So I like to kick this off with the draw engine, and I'm actually just going to tell you right now, we're playing Chaos Space this time. If it wasn't obvious enough from the fact that we're playing the Chaos Babies, yeah, we're not playing Allure or Sacred Sword or Cards of Consonance, any of that jazz. We're not playing Pot of Extravagance or Desires or Duality. None of that. No, no, no. We're playing Chaos Space since it's just an easy way to get one of our combo pieces into grave, search another combo extender, and just keep on trucking. Seeing Chaos Space in your opening hand is also incredible, so 3 copies of Chaos Space. And I've mentioned this multiple times, we have War Arthau in our deck here. War Arthau simply reads, if you control a level 1 monster, add 1 level 1 monster from your deck to your hand. But it also says, during the end phase of this turn, take 2,000 damage if you do not normal summon the added monster or card with the same name after activating this card. As I said before, use Quick Launch, bring out Rocket Syncron, use Wararthel, bring Buster Welt from deck to hand, normal summon, add Prologue, and you have beyond full combo. So yeah, this is definitely worth playing at 2 or 3. And the final 2 spells here are World Legacy Guard Dragon. Same thing with Wararthel. You don't really want to have too many spells in your opening hand. That could just lead to complete dead plays. So just to reduce bricking, only 2 copies. So to go with the 5 traps that I showed you all earlier in the Buster Blader core, we're playing 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Normally I play 2 copies of Infinite Impermanence, or 2 copies of Destruction Sword Flash, so that they are interchangeable. Like I said before though, I took Flash out of the main deck and the side deck just for this version. Personally though, we are lacking hand traps in this main deck, so I wanted to have Infinite Impermanence here, as it is just a very clutch card to open with, since it's not once per turn, and if you set it, it's good for going second as well. I'm also going to show you the other reason why I'm playing triple Imperm. We are playing 3 copies of Trap Trick. So I was playing this down at 2, I played this at 1. You can kind of get away with Trap Trick at any ratio. Just for this specific version, I put 3 in here. If you take one of these Trap Tricks out, there will be 10 traps in total, so you'll have a little bit of even spread there. I wanted to have more impact towards getting either Infinite Impermanence or Prologue, so triple Trap Trick, not too bad. And that is it for the main deck. Let's go into the extra deck. So I've already spoiled like 90% of this extra deck, so we're just going to fly through this. We have 2 copies of Buster Blader, the Dragon Destroyer Swordsman. Obviously, he is probably the strongest boss in our deck next to Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, so I'm going to have 2 copies here. Sometimes you can get away with 3, but in my opinion, if you lose your chance after the second time you brought this card out, you've more than lost already, so I wouldn't even bother playing 3. 2 is more than enough. Now we can also apply that same logic to Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, I guess. Now for obvious reasons, we technically have a 3rd copy of Dragoon because we have Red Eyes Wyvern, but I just don't think playing 3 copies in the extra deck is feasible, especially with how tight this extra deck is already. Plus this card is really expensive now since it escaped the ban list, so is Verte Anaconda, so I do not expect people to play multiple copies of Verte. Dragoon is here for obvious reasons. He's probably one of the strongest cards in the entire game right now. You gotta respect him. And the last fusion monster here is Dark Paladin. You can quite literally play anything else. I like Dark Paladin OTKing people. You can get way over 9,000 damage. It's over 9,000! And your opponents cry. Like, first they're amazed at the fact that you're playing a Dark Paladin, but then they cry when you one-shot them with it. What, 9,000?! Yeah, not to mention he has that non-once per turn spell negation, as long as you have cards to discard. You can just keep negating your opponent's spells all day long. We're only playing 5 fusions, so let's go into the Link monsters next, and we only have 5 of these as well. We got 1 Guard Dragon Pisty and 1 Striker Dragon. Now, Pisty is actually pretty dope if you have World Legacy Guard Dragon, because you don't need Striker Dragon's arrow. But if you don't have World Legacy Guard Dragon, like I said, you have Striker Dragon here for that arrow. I just like the synergy with Noctovision Dragon and Pisty and Striker Dragon, so I don't want to have too many Link 1s in here, as we have a bunch of Link 2s next. As I already mentioned, we have Predaplant Verte Anaconda, and this guy shot up a lot after the ban list, so if you do not have multiple copies of this, I don't blame you. And you do not need multiple copies of Verte for this deck anyways, it's just nice to have at least 1. The fact that they didn't ban Verte is super upsetting, I'm not gonna lie. This card is super powerful, but since they didn't ban it, we're gonna abuse the absolute out of it. So let's just get on into the last 2 Link monsters for the extra deck. The rest are all Link 2s, and we're playing a Crystron Halki Fibrax. This card is so clutch in this deck because of the amount of level 1 tuners we're playing. And if you open with a Buster Whelp, you can special summon out a Dragon Buster later on this guy. The last card here is probably MVP for all the Link monsters. We got Protector Whelp for Destruction Swordsman. If this card is Link summoned, you can send one Destruction Sword card from your deck to the graveyard. Then, you can special summon one Buster Blader monster from your hand. So you do not need Buster Blader in your hand for the part A of this effect to resolve. You just need part A of this effect to resolve for part B to go off. Unfortunately for Protector Whelp, his effects are hard once per turn, so even if you try to return him to the extra deck from your graveyard with effects such as, I don't know, Wizard Buster, or from the Banish Zone with Chaos Base, you cannot just Link Summon him again and then use the effect again. I mean, you can Link Summon him again, you just won't get anything for it. That's it for the Link monsters. We only have the Synchro monsters remaining. If you guys were paying attention to the Link monsters, there's no real way to get rid of Halqifibrax except for Protector Whelp or Verte Anaconda, but we try to keep him on the field for as long as possible, because on our opponent's turn, we can use his additional effect, which is to banish him during their main phase and special summon a Tuner Synchro. And we get to go into Shooting Riser Dragon as it counts as a Synchro summon. You can pitch a card from deck to grave as long as it has a level lower than 7, because that is the level of Shooting Riser. And then whatever level was sent, say you send a level 6 Monodragon Zernitron, it loses 6 levels and becomes a level 1. He's also kind of like Formula Syncron, where it says once per chain. During your opponent's main phase, you can quick effect immediately after this effect resolves, Synchro Summon using this card you control. If you can pitch a level 3 such as Wizard and you have a 4 on the field, you can go into an 8 that way. If you pitch a 6, go down to a 1 and you use him plus another 8 or a 7, you can go into an 8 or a 9. So he's pretty good for going into more synchros on your opponent's turn, and I'm going to show you some of the monsters that we can go into. Starting with probably the most important card here, in the synchro section I mean, Buster Dragon. The first line of text on Buster Dragon reads, all monsters your opponent controls become Dragon type. That is a passive effect, that is a very powerful effect, and in tandem with your Buster Blader Dragon Destroyer Swordsman, your opponent's not going to have monster effects on the field, they're going to be locked to defense, and then you can use the other effect of Buster Dragon on your opponent's turn. Once per turn during your opponent's turn, you can target one Buster Blader monster you control, equip it with one Destruction Sword monster from your graveyard. This is a quick effect. You can equip them with, like I said, Dragon Buster, lock them out of their extra deck, or Wizard Buster and lock them out of their graveyard. We have one more level 8 here. We're playing Borreload Savage Dragon. I like having Borreload Savage Dragon since it just fits the theme of the Rockets, and like I said, it's a sweet Omni Negate. We only have one more card here in the extra deck, and of course it's a Synchro monster. Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss. So this card, at quick effect speed, you can target one face-up card your opponent controls, negate its effects until the end of this turn. It's a pretty powerful effect, I'm not going to lie, because it's any card your opponent controls as long as it's face up. It's good for messing up some of their opening combos if you don't want to burn an Omni Negate on, say, Borreload Savage Dragon or your Dragoon Negate. And this is just a good way of turning off a face up card that they were relying on for the rest of the turn. So, multiple good uses. Also, it says when this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can target one tuner in your graveyard, special summon in defense position. You can only use each effect of Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss once per turn. Not bad, but not incredibly useful for what we're doing. So that's just about it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you really enjoyed it, make sure to like and share this video. Leave a comment down below if you want to see a different version next month. I just wanted to quickly say that 93% of you are not subscribed. If you guys want to make a difference on the channel, that is the first step to doing so. And as always, I hope you all have a wonderful day.